everybody, and welcome back to another stimulus package update where I update you on everything that we need to know concerning this next stimulus package. And right now we have a bill that just passed in the House called the HEROES Act. Now, a lot of you are excited about this. A lot of you wanted this bill to pass in the House, and it didn't. And there are some people who are still very angry that this passed in the House and do not want to see this bill pass in the Senate. So I have to say this first, like I always say, I offer my bipartisan review of what's going on, meaning I don't get into my personal political affiliation. Rather, I just give you all of the facts of what's going on with current legislation and let you inform your own opinion. Okay, so I try not to give my opinion. Let's talk about the HEROES Act. If you're new to this whole show and you're like, I just want to know about the check, am I getting some money? I don't even know what's going on. Let me just fill you in really quick. A new bill was proposed by the Democratic Party called the HEROES Act. It went to the House of Representatives and, surprise, it passed. Now, what this bill is proposing is rental and mortgage assistance, forgiveness of student loan debts up to $10,000 for eligible applicants, hazard pay for essential workers, and so much more. Now that sounds like a dream, including the $1,200 payments that will be going to every American. A lot of people are super excited about that.
Global pandemic, 36 million people unemployed, 40% of families who have a worker that makes $40,000 a year and less lose their job last month. 4 million people didn't pay their rent, and the Republican Party says, we don't have any money to help you. Are you kidding me? Where do you guys live? Food lines around the blocks at our food banks in the United States of America. 1 in 5 kids are going hungry. Your party can't even get food to them. This isn't a wish list. If it's a wish list, it's for the working class people. How about the Teamsters that are going to get a pension when this bill passes?
Gentleman's time's expired.
Their pension gets cut in half.
Gentleman's time is expired.
This is ridiculous.
Gentlewoman from New York
on the American people.
The gentleman from Oklahoma.
But on the other end, you have a lot of other stuff that some would say is hidden in the bill, and a lot of people are very opposed to a lot of these provisions in the bill.
Neither this bill nor anything resembling it will ever become law. It's a Democrat wish list filled up with all the party's favored policies. Is this a joke? Because it certainly isn't based on reality. Reality would be working here for the last 3 weeks, examining each problem our nation faces and working together to find the best solutions. That shouldn't be all that difficult, since I would presume we still have the same goals: mitigate the virus and save our economy and society. Right? That is still our goal, isn't it? If it is, then stop playing games. $3 trillion of virtue signaling to your base is no way to govern in the midst of a crisis, and you know it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So that's a quick review of everything that's going on. But now let's talk about what happens next. I was getting messages all weekend and people were asking me, Erica, what happens next? So let's just break this whole thing down. It passed in the House. We know that. Now the bill is on its way to the Senate for another vote. So that first vote, it was just the first vote. There's yet another vote. And I know some people are like, you gotta be kidding me. There's another vote. Yes, there's another vote. That's how this country works. The bill passed in the House and now it's on its way to the Senate. So before it gets to the Senate, what we can expect to see both sides tweaking this bill, amending this bill, negotiating over what stays and what needs to go. Now, a lot of Republicans have already said this bill is DOA, is dead on arrival. There is no way we're going to pass it. And a lot of Americans heard that and are sticking with it. But for those that want the bill to pass, I want to tell you there may be hope, because no one thought that any Republicans would vote yes on this bill in the House. But one Republican, Peter King, he definitely did. And his reasoning is that his state needs the money. He's a representative from New York, and he says his state needs the money, New York needs the money. So when the bill was in the House, a Republican voted yes. So there is hope that other Republicans will vote yes on this bill when it goes to the Senate, if it makes the necessary changes. Now, Peter King stated that he was not happy with the bill, but his state needs the money. So he was willing to vote yes and take one for the team in order for New York to get that money. Wow. That's pretty amazing that he was willing to do something that he really does not want to do so that the people of his state can get the funding that they need. Let's hear what he had to say.
McConnell's playing some kind of a game here. I guess he's trying to set the red states against the blue states. I can be as much of a red state person as anyone, but now we're talking about survival. And there's no place for politics. There's no place for refighting the Civil War or having aiding at all. This is making sure that what's equitable has to be done. And right now, McConnell's being inequitable, and he's given Pelosi the upper hand, so she can be the one who comes forward with the legislation, providing the necessary aid, and then she's able to attach all this other extraneous material to it that there's no place in the bill at all. Provisions on illegal immigration, absentee ballots, postage paid absentee ballots for everyone, restrictions on ICE. We can go through a whole list of them, which have nothing to do with the pandemic. To me, this should deal entirely with the pandemic. She's put in basically a progressive wish list. Again, I'm voting for it reluctantly, but I really have no choice. And then it'll go to the Senate. Hopefully that will give not just the Democrats, but there's also a lot of Republicans in the Senate who do believe that aid should be given to the state and local governments. It'll give them an opportunity to work with something, and then they can start stripping out what they believe doesn't belong there, send it back to a conference, and we can pass it.
So let's hypothetically say the bill makes it through the Senate. What happens after that? If by some miracle this bill makes it out of the Senate with a yes vote, wow. What would happen after that? Well, after that, the bill would have to be signed by the president in order for it to become a law. And President Trump has already stated that he would veto this bill, meaning he would cancel out and not approve this bill. He's already stated that. And that has caused a lot of Americans to give up hope in this entire process. But if you understand legislation, you'll know that the president's veto is not the end of a bill. Most Americans have considered the fact that President Trump said he would veto the bill if it ever reached his desk. But what we have to consider is the bill has not yet gone through negotiations. By the time it reaches his desk, if ever it does, it might be a bill that he's okay with. And if it's a bill that he's not okay with and he decides to veto that bill, well, then that's not the end of that bill. The bill can return to the House for another vote. The whole process starts again, and the president's veto can get an override with 2/3 majority vote in both chambers. Now, it's highly unlikely that that would happen, and it's highly unlikely that we would ever get to that point during a pandemic. I personally believe that they're going to come to some type of compromise at some point, because we do need another stimulus, and this economy will not survive without another boost. But I want to give you hope if you're pulling for this bill, and a lot of people are. I want to give you hope if you don't like the bill. I want to give you hope also so that you'll know, in order to come to a compromise, hopefully some of this stuff that you feel is unnecessary will be trimmed off the bill. But what the American people need right now very much is just hope that something will happen, that something can be done, and something will happen, and something can be done. So we don't know how this is going to turn out. We don't know which way it's going to go. But we know that it's got to go somewhere, and now we know the order in which it will go. So let's start again. The HEROES Act passed in the House. Now, negotiations and amending of the bill will start to take place. Then the bill will go to the Senate for a vote. If it passes in the Senate, it will need to go to the president. If he signs it, great, your stimulus is on the way. If he does not sign it and he gives it a veto, then it can go back to the House and the process can start all over again. And his veto can get an override with 2/3 of a vote from both chambers. Well, that's it for this video, and I hope that helped you understand what happens next with this stimulus package. I'll see you on the next video. I'm out.